In the news tonight, the first global forum on youth, peace and security patronized by His Royal Highness Crown Prince Hussein ends its two-day deliberations at the King's Academy in Madaba.
An Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood leader and other prominent figures of the group are sentenced to life in prison as a part of the Egyptian government's crackdown on the group.
And high-level talks between North and South Korea convened today, raising hopes for an end to a standoff that put the rivals on the brink of armed conflict. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. And we begin here at home, where the first global forum on youth, peace and security, patronized by His Royal Highness Crown Prince Hussein, ended its two-day deliberations at the King's Academy in Madaba. On its second day today, participants discussed the role of the youth in bringing about positive change in their communities and how various institutions can empower them to play such a role. Participants also reviewed the role of youth movements in conflict prevention, peace building, and the fight against radicalism and violence. A number of success stories were presented by youth participants on initiatives aimed at overcoming challenges facing young people, namely unemployment, and increasing youth participation in decision-making through the Democratic Empowerment Program. A session moderated by Director of Interfaith Research, Father Nabil Haddad, discussed Jordanian youth as a model of Muslim-Christian coexistence. He said Muslims and Christians have lived on the land of Jordan for the past 1400 years and will continue to do so in the future. He called on participants to transfer the Jordanian experience to the rest of the world. Crown Prince Hussein had addressed participants at the opening of the forum yesterday, calling the youth the strategic assets and the real wealth of the future.
Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour decided to form a task force to look into the recommendations presented by the National Center for Human Rights in its annual report for 2014, which was handed to His Majesty the King last week. Chaired by the government's coordinator for human rights, Basil Tarawne, the task force is expected to outline the necessary measures aimed at enhancing the state of human rights in the kingdom based on the report's view and recommendations, a copy of which was also handed to the Prime Minister. The committee includes the membership of representatives from the Ministers of Education, Interior, Foreign Affairs, Planning and International Cooperation, Labour and Municipalities, Social Development, Justice and Culture, as well as the Political and Parliamentary Development. It comprises representatives of the Public Intelligence Department, the Public Security and the Prime Ministry.
Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohammed Badia and other prominent figures of the group were sentenced to life in prison. Senior Brotherhood leader Mohammed al-Biltaji, Islamist cleric Safwat Hijazi and 16 others were also sentenced to life in prison. 28 were sentenced to 10 years in prison and 68 were acquitted. Since Mohammed Morsi was deposed, Egyptian authorities have held mass trials for thousands of Muslim Brotherhood supporters, with hundreds receiving death sentences or prison terms. Here's more.
This is Mohammed Badi's sixth life sentence. This one for an attack on a police station in the city of Port Said in 2013 that killed 5 people in a wave of violence following the removal of Islamist President Mohammed Morsi from power the same year. Several other prominent Islamists were sentenced to life in prison along with Badi, with charges ranging from murder to destruction of property. The sentencing comes as part of an ongoing crackdown on the Muslim Brotherhood that the Egyptian government deems a terrorist group. Since deposing Morsi, hundreds of his supporters have received lengthy prison terms and death sentences, even as the Brotherhood says it remains committed to peaceful activism.
Over to Yemen, and several bombs exploded outside a building used by the intelligence services in the southern port city of Aden, causing fires to break out. There were no casualties reported, but the blast caused severe damages. According to officials, explosive devices were planted on the fence of the building that surround the intelligence offices located near the administration of Aden's port and the radio and television building. There has been no claim of responsibility so far.
The United States and its coalition partners targeted Daesh terrorists in 27 airstrikes in a round of daily attacks on the group in Iraq and Syria. In a statement issued by the Combined Joint Task Force, 22 of the strikes were in Iraq, with the greatest concentration near the cities of Beji and Mosul, where tactical units, buildings, fighting positions, weapons and vehicles were hit. In Syria, 5 attacks near the cities of Al-Hasaka, Al-Hol and Kobani hit fighting positions, a bunker and a tactical unit.
To Afghanistan, where a car bomb targeting a vehicle carrying foreign citizens outside a hospital in Kabul killed at least 12 people and left 66 injured. Security sources said the bomb targeted a group of foreign security contractors and that at least one of them was killed. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Today's blast is part of a wave of attacks in the Afghan capital since the death of Taliban leader Mullah Omar last month. The Taliban is fighting to expel foreign forces from the country and impose their version of Islamic law.
A plane taking part in an air show in Shoreham, England, crashed on a nearby motorway, killing 7 people. 14 people were treated for wounds, while 1 person was in critical condition. The Hawker Hunter jet plummeted to the ground when it failed to pull out of a loop maneuver, smashing into the road in a huge fireball. The plane's canopy was open and the wing ablaze, engulfing traffic lights and roadwork cones and signs. It is not yet known whether the pilot was able to eject or not.
We'll be getting the emergency services in soon.
The number of migrants and refugees, mostly Syrians, grew on Greece's border with Macedonia after many spent a cold, wet night in the open air as police and soldiers limited entry into the country. Some 600 who were allowed through overnight packed into a train and were sent north to Serbia, the last stop en route to Hungary and Europe's borderless Schengen zone. More arrived by foot on the Greek side, many of them Syrian refugees brought by boat, chartered by the Greek government to the mainland from inundated Greek islands such as Kos. Police and soldiers deploying along Macedonia's southern border with Greece are struggling to control the number of refugees and migrants, many of them fleeing conflicts in the region. Over 40,000 entered Macedonia in the past 2 months. Some 50,000 hit Greek shores by boat from Turkey in July alone.
High-level talks took place between senior politicians from North and South Korea who met at a demilitarized zone village straddling the border, raising hopes for an end to a standoff that put the rivals on the brink of armed conflict. During the meeting, North Korea demanded that the South halt its loudspeaker propaganda broadcasts along the border or face military action. However, Seoul said it would continue the broadcasts unless the North accepted responsibility for landmine explosions this month in the DMZ that wounded 2 South Korean soldiers. Pyongyang denies it planted the mines. Earlier, North Korea had issued a statement on its state media that the country is ready to safeguard its regime, even if it means fighting an all-out war with the South. Is Disneyland too busy this weekend? You might want to try Dismaland. Dismaland Amusement Park, as it is officially called, is a sly take on an immersive art exhibition from the controversial street artist Banksy. The site is full of the artist's subversive statements and epigrams on Western culture, the media, capitalism, and extreme disparities of wealth. Located in a working-class seaside resort town in England, the theme park features a decrepit castle, a merry-go-round horse about to be turned into a burger, and model boats on a pool full of refugees. The merry-go-round horse, destined to be cooked, harks back to a food scandal sparked by the presence of horse meat in supermarket ready meals. The park is tagged as the UK's most disappointing new visitor attraction. Dismaland will remain open until September 27.
Well, I'm a massive fan of Banksy, always have been, and he's a hero of mine, so to be a part of this is fantastic. It's the dystopia, it's the surreal, the humour, the ugly, it's all of those things, the urban environment he picks to a T, so it's all of that really.
Did Sepp Blatter resign or not? That is the question. The FIFA president repeated his assertion that he had not resigned. In May, Blatter was re-elected for a fifth term at the FIFA Congress and 4 days later announced he would step down as the organization lurched into the worst crisis in its 111-year history. A month later, Blatter fueled suspicions of a renewed attempt to cling to the FIFA job by insisting he had not resigned but had put his mandate available at an extraordinary Congress. And today, Blatter speaking at the annual soccer tournament in the Swiss Alps, he simply said, "I didn't resign."
I didn't resign. This is the mistake. I have never resigned. Considering the situation where we were, a difficult situation with pressure, and one day I'll tell you all the pressures that FIFA and myself faced. I only have one option, like we say in football, to kick the ball into touch, to calm things down.
Over to tennis, and the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati top seed Novak Djokovic crushed Stan Wawrinka of Switzerland to reach the semi-finals. The Serb needed a mere 63 minutes to dispatch Wawrinka and win 6-4, 6-1. He now meets Alexander Dolgopolov, who beat Thomas Berdych.
6-4, 6-1.
Third seed Britain Andy Murray needed 3 sets to get past Frenchman Richard Gasquet 4-6, 6-1, 6-4 and will now meet Swiss defending champion and second seed Roger Federer, who got past Feliciano Lopez.
And now a quick look at the weather forecast. Normal summer conditions prevail across the kingdom tonight and tomorrow with northwesterly light winds.
The Gulf of Aqaba can still expect hot weather tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and slightly high seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow.
And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. The first global forum on youth, peace and security, patronized by His Royal Highness Crown Prince Hussein, ends its 2-day deliberations at the King's Academy in Madaba.
An Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood leader and other prominent figures of the group are sentenced to life in prison as part of the Egyptian government's crackdown on the group.
And high-level talks between North and South Korea convened today, raising hopes for an end to a standoff that put the rivals on the brink of armed conflict. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan.
And I'm Louis Balkar. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.